Look at how we remove this speaker cover. Now, in order to get started, you first have to have the top shelter and the side panels removed. So you can see I've got the bike fairly well stripped, and that's because this edge of the speaker cover fits under the top shelter and those side panels. So in order to get that speaker cover off, you first have to have the top shelter removed. There are two 5mm Allen bolts and two push pins that hold these speaker panels on. So here's one of the 5mm Allens, and here's the other 5mm Allen. So we can start by taking those off. So it's just simply a matter of spinning out these bolts. And these are the shorter variety of the 5mm Allen bolts. Now, one of the push pins is underneath this panel. So we can either remove this panel, or you can actually pull the panel back to kind of expose the push pin. And so here's the location of the push pin down in the corner, and it's just on the inboard edge of where we remove this 5mm Allen. So you can actually get your finger on this panel and kind of just pry it back enough that you can get that push pin out. So I'm just going to kind of pull this panel out of my way so I can get in here with a tool, pop in the center of that push pin, and then I'm going to reach in here with my thumbtack remover and just kind of pry that push pin out, and being careful not to drop it, because there is a cavity underneath there. The second push pin, you have to look from the other side of the motorcycle to see it's right here on this inside edge of the speaker cover. And so here again, I'm just going to reach in with my tool. I'm going to pop in that push pin, and I'm going to extract it with my thumbtack remover. Now, with those fasteners removed, we can start to remove the speaker panel. Now we have to start down here at this bottom edge, and if you look close, you'll see there's a little clip, a little metal bracket there that sticks through the slot in the panel. And so you have to pull on the speaker panel and pry that corner off of the metal bracket. So there's where that little tab was we just pried free. Now this top edge will pry out away from the instrument panel easily enough. You just kind of lift up on it and pull back in this direction. There are some tabs along this edge that fit into that instrument panel bezel. Now this speaker panel joins the bottom edge of the bezel cover here on the instrument panel. And so there's a tab right here that we have to release. And so if I pry up on the bottom of that bezel cover, I can actually pop that corner of it loose. And with that corner of the bezel cover loose, I can then slide the speaker panel down and off of the little slot that it fits on. Now the speaker panel is free and we can lift it off of the motorcycle. So there's the slot that we just released the tab from. And looking at the corner of this bezel cover where we just released, there's the little tab. It's kind of a downward pointing tab. And so that's why we had to push down on that speaker cover to release it from that downward pointing tab that it clips into. Also on the back side of this speaker panel, you'll see these little tabs around the edges that clipped into the edges of that bezel cover. And if you look up under that bezel cover, you'll see the slots that those tabs fit into. And along the edge of this meter visor cover, there's also two slots that the two forward tabs here click into. So those are the two tabs that kind of stick into those two slots. So those are the ones that you have to kind of pry free from that corner of the meter visor. So to reinstall this speaker cover, I'm going to start up here at this forward edge where I got that triangular shaped tab out, and I'm going to start by pulling the black portion of the bezel cover out enough that I can work that corner up and into place. So I want to get that slot into place and get those two panels married. That's the first step. And you may need to pull back on this panel and work that bottom edge where the trim clip goes down underneath that panel. Now I can simply push the panel up and clip the other tabs into position. So you just kind of walk along the edge here and get all those pushed in one at a time. And then we can just clip these two clips that go into the meter panel visor. Just kind of push those together until you hear that click. And remember when you're reinstalling these speaker covers to guide that little metal pin into the hole on the side of the speaker cover. And before I install the Allen screw in the corner of this panel, I'm going to pull the panel back so I can get my push pin in there. And I'm using hemiostats to hold it so I don't drop it. And so I'm just pushing that push pin back into its hole. And then I'm going to lock it into place. And so now I just reinstall my 5mm Allen screws. And we want to reinstall the push pin that goes in this inboard edge, being very careful not to drop it. And before we remove or install this corner push pin, it's probably a good idea to put a rag there to catch it in case it falls. And you want to make sure that hole's lined up properly. And I'm holding the push pin with a pair of hemiostats so I don't drop it. And then I'm just clipping it into place. And so that completes the reinstallation of your speaker cover.